And basically, as I already mentioned, this is a very personal talk for me because it's basically telling my story, the way I came to be in the way I am at the moment. So yeah, you can actually call it solopreneur, or so per person working alone. I prefer calling that like maybe a consultant, maybe a contractor. But I also recently I liked another term which is called individual contributor, which I think defines my role, my view of the world a bit better. But let's start from the beginning. So first of all, my main thing is that I'm actually a developer, right? We're talking about, we are in DevClub, of course, many of us are some sort of IT people or developers, and I'm a developer as well. I write code, and I'm probably gonna write code for a long time. Maybe also some other people know me as a DevOps guy, because in the last maybe 10 years, I'm doing a lot of something that different people call DevOps, right? I do automation, I do consulting, helping companies to find the better way for their infrastructure strategies, for their business strategies and stuff like that. It all falls under the umbrella of DevOps, but different people define DevOps differently, so it will mean different things for them. But in general, I am a DevOps guy, right? I can do a lot of things that is related to that. Also, I do lots of trainings, and we're going to talk about that page of my life, which is still happening, of course. And I'm speaking from time to time on different events. I'm also going to talk about that. So let's start. Of course, it all started. Yeah, it also started with my birth and with my going to school, but that's not that interesting. One thing that shaped me as a developer or as a person, that like as a professional, was of course Latvian University, where I studied in 2002, 2004. And if you calculate, the age of me, approximately, I'm actually relatively old. I would say I'm 42. I'm going to turn 42 this year. Yeah, this is the years where I finished my formal education in the university, 2004. And the good thing is that at the same time, when I was studying, I actually managed to get a job in a small Latvian company that was focusing on producing software for a local accounting market. And I managed to work there during my study time, and I'm really grateful that company for that opportunity, because I managed to get experience, and at the same time I managed to study in the university and get a degree. And that's, I think, was very valuable, because after graduating from the university, I both had a degree, a master of science and a master of computer science, and at the same time I had like a 6-year experience, which was a really good for the job market, which actually played a good role later on. And that first company was really a small company. We had like 5 developers at peak, and most of the developers were working on their own products. So I'm including myself. I was working on my own product, which was used mostly internally by the company, and I was working on that like for 6 years. And this, this product approach and the fact that the customers and the actual internal customers were close by, I kind of gain some skills of not just coding, but actually coding in collaboration with the people who are actually ordering the software, and that's was something I would say not very usual for that era, at least. Of course, it's happening more frequently now when customers are closer to the development team and they influence the development team in the best possible way. But back in the beginning of the century, it was not really the case. Then I started, going from Latvian market, and as soon as I finished my education, of course I wanted to get something bigger. I wanted to maybe have something with bigger opportunities, and basically I started working in Accenture. And I know that Accenture is viewed by different people as a maybe not the best starting place to work in, or maybe it's not giving lots of opportunities. But for me, actually, it was really good place. And I'm really grateful for Accenture for giving me the experience, because they introduced me to international projects. They introduced me to international markets, and I managed to use my skills of like product approach to software development and in general technical skills that I acquired before that, to apply them on a bigger scale for bigger companies, something that I would never be able to do in if I just worked in Latvian market and local market. So I actually started working on a project in Finland, and was the first company, the first client from Accenture was Nokia. And the second client, the second project I worked on was a bank from Norway. So something that was, at least for me at that point, was really, wow, it's cool. It's a big project, big company, lots of people, lots of interactions, lots of different technologies that you have to learn and understand, and it was really exciting. But I think I quite quickly realized that the amount of salary that we were getting as a Latvian company, as a Latvian Accenture office, is not the limit, right? It's not something that you can actually get as an IT professional. And the good thing is that I actually met some people working in Accenture, and one of them was my friend. He was not my friend at that point, but he's now my friend, and we are still keeping the contact. And he played a very essential role in the way I transformed from an employee to an individual contributor, to a contractor. Because he was a contractor, he was working with Accenture on the same project in Nokia, and he was a consultant on certain technology that was used in that project, and we kind of he was really professional. He really cared about the quality, about the code, about the architecture, and he was really knowledgeable. And well, I was as well, but from a different side. And we kind of we matched, right? And we started talking more, and we kept contact after the project, because after Nokia project I went to a different country. And he went to a different project as well, but we keep the contact, and that helped me to, that played an essential role to exit that employee world and get into the next chapter. So basically, I started working as a contractor in Denmark. And that was because Luciano really recommended me to that company. He also was working as a contractor for the company. And from that point, I would consider that I went from being an employee to being an individual, contributor, to being a solopreneur, or just being solo. And initially, of course, it was more like normal contracts, like a usual consultant thing, where you get a contract for like 3 months, 6 months, and my initial contract was only 6 months, but. And of course, it was kind of scary for me to jump and to move into a new country completely on my own, and without support of any kind of employer, because I had to figure out the taxes, I have to figure out the work permits, I have to figure out how I have to find the place to live. I have to move my wife as well, and that's something that required a bit of courage. But comparing the salary that I got in Accenture in Latvian market, and the salary or the money that I would get when I just jumping into this project that was introduced to me for just 6 months, my salary raised 10 times. And you can imagine that when you have this kind of raise in a matter of month, that's something that is worth risking. And that was it was a lucky point for me, because Luciano obviously helped me, and there was a good thing that they actually signed the contract, because they saw the potential. Right, and since then, I started working with this company, consulting company, typical consulting company. They also had lots of projects. Many of them were purely Danish projects. They were like working with Danish authorities. I worked with SCAD, which is like in Latvian analogy that is VID. Banītike is Latvia's Dzelzceļš, and DMR is like CZD. I worked with them for the project for these little authorities, but in Denmark. And also I work with Telenor, which is another telecommunication provider, which is big in Scandinavia. And initially I was living in Denmark for first 9 months, but then because I was providing enough quality, and the company started to trust me, we just agreed that I will fly back and forth from Latvia to Denmark. And especially it was very good, very good, because at that my first son was born at that time, and it was really convenient, so that I can get good contracts from Danish company, and still at the same time spending time with my family, with my wife and kid in Latvia. That was really good thing for me. And eventually, because I was working with a company for a long time, we just eventually switched to remote work. So I think from 2000 and 2010, I'm actually was working almost fully remote, which I mean, and then when people are asking me what's your work schedule in these pandemics, did you switch to remote? I mean, I was already remote like 8 years before that, so it was not a big deal for me to switch to remote work. And the key point here is that I actually client respected me, and initially they only expanded the contract for like 3 months or 6 months, and it was a bit worrying for me. I was really feeling nervous when the contract end date was approaching, because there was a risk that they will not extend. But eventually I stopped worrying about that, because first of all, there was a trust, and second, well, they kind of needed me eventually, because I knew so much about different aspects of different projects that they started to need me quite more than I needed them. I was a good comfortable situation at that time. But of course, initially it was a bit nervous and frustrating sometimes when you don't know, when it's till last moment, till last week of the contract, you don't know whether they will extend it or not. But eventually I stopped worrying. And also the funny thing that Luciano was also working at the same company from time to time. He was maybe joining some different projects, and sometimes we worked on the same project together. And it was fun, because he was a friend. And at some point we decided, why don't we working solo is fine, it's cool, and it kind of gives good money, and we have it's not a problem for a professional to find a gig, find a new job. So but it was kind of boring at some point, because it's the same thing, the same kind of schedule. It's kind of boring. So we decided, why don't we start our own consulting company, which seemed logical, because we are both professionals, we both have the same point of view, we are friends, and I mean, why not? So around 2011 we started thinking about that, and we actually created a new legal entity where we started to start selling services that were not just consulting. And we actually started getting more clients. Of course, NetCompany actually stayed as our main client for quite a while, but we're starting to get more things based on through the things that Luciano also has, different contacts in different parts of Europe, and I also had some contacts, and it helped us building slightly bigger client base. We also had some friends who also were contractors, who also work at NetCompany at some point, and we also formed a little network of people who are exchanging projects, and we found some new stuff that we worked on, and most of that actually happened remotely, maybe with some short trips to the clients, which was a good thing. And we kind of wanted to grow our business, right? We wanted to make the business not just us, but actually wanted to, of course, to build something that is slightly more lucrative and brings bigger profit. And we found a couple of other consultants whose services we were able to sell to our clients. We get some service contracts where we just kind of support mechanism for some of the companies which needed support for the projects we were on, but this support was needed maybe was not needed every month, but maybe but still we kind of included monthly fee for this service contracts to those customers, and was very convenient to us, and we kind of also gave some of the customers the risk-free the ability to always call us and get some consulting. We also started doing code outreach services, because both me and Luciano and a couple of other people that were involved, we had quite a lot of quite vast experience in supporting different projects and writing different projects, mostly in Java at that time. But we had we observed code bases that were like millions lines of code, and we had experience of helping this project and implementing this projects and automating this projects. So we were like high-level architects who could do code audits, and we started providing these services as well. We had several of these kind of reports that were going on. And also we thought that training is also, that's another thing that would be useful, would be interesting for us to sell, and we actually managed to sell few workshops as a company, which was very, very good for us, because when you think about just a pure contracting work, that's of course you're paid by the hour, and the hour that you spend on that consulting gig, that costs some money, but that's your hour, you spend the time. With service contracts, it's a bit more lucrative because you don't know whether the customer will use the time or will not use the time. You still have a permanent flow of income of some sort, and that's good for both for you and for customer at the same time. This is kind of short-term projects that definitely cost more than your consulting hours, and something that actually is interesting because you're trying to help a company to understand where the problems are, and that's more interesting than just writing the code. And training workshops, of course, they have even higher margin because they would cost more per hour if you count the hours than your consulting hour. And of course, we wanted eventually to focus more on this kind of things, more lucrative things, to bring obviously more money into the company. And it seems like very nice model if you think about that. And of course, at the same time, we had to acquire some skills that we didn't have before. Because as a contractor, of course, you have to think a bit about accounting, a bit about how you find your next gig, how you find your next project. But it's not that active, right? But with becoming more like a consulting company, we needed to invest more time into accounting because, of course, you have to think not only about your income, but also about the income of your partner and the income of your consultants that you also resell to other companies. Also, you have to do the marketing in some way, so website and emails. That's also something that should happen and that takes time. You also have to negotiate the contracts, negotiate the price, and it takes energy and time. Especially if you're a developer, these kind of things they definitely drain energy from you. And of course, the sales part is also quite important because you have to eventually close the deal, and it takes energy, takes time, and if you fail, you don't feel very well after that. Especially if coming from a technical world, when you write code and it works, or you maybe fix a bug and it works, it takes maybe an hour, maybe a day, but you get the result. With this kind of things, sometimes it could happen for weeks or even months to get into a contract, to get into a sale, and that's really the energy is draining, and the energy is becoming harder and harder to find, especially for technical people, introverts like me, for example. But nonetheless, at the same time, we got an offer from a publishing agency. Actually, Luciana got an offer to write a book. And we decided, well, why don't we write it together? Because it seems like a fun thing. And we actually wrote a book together, like Groovy to Cookbook. Maybe you've heard about Groovy. It's a language based on JVM, based on Java, which was popular at the time. I don't think it's so much popular nowadays. Maybe if you use something like Jenkins, you know what it is. But yeah, I mean, and after all, our goal was not really to earn lots of money with the book, because we knew that the book is very niche. And the topic is not something that will survive the time, right? It will definitely be not relevant after a few years. But we still wanted to do that because the format of the cookbook is relatively simple, and we also wanted to try it out and to get maybe some exposure, some glory from being an author. And it worked out because we get some attention, especially the conferences and meetups. That when a conference organizer sees someone who wrote a book, they of course would probably have there's a bigger chance that they will invite you to a conference. And the book is still being sold. We still get some money from that, but it's not crazy amount of money. It's like actually I think we spend more time. If we recalculate the time we spent on writing the book and multiply that by the contracting rate that we got, and the amount of money that we get from selling the book, that's not a big match at all. It's like it's a total loss. It's a completely non-commercial project, but it was fun. It was fun, and I mean. I told you already the story. We had some services we were providing. We were trying to shape up our company, and we were trying to get more revenue streams, and it was kind of working, but not really, to be honest. Because still a lot of time and a lot of revenue was coming from our own consulting gigs. So we still were doing pure consulting development work, which of course, when you combine that work with marketing, accounting, and sales, and the other things, that drains energy, and that eventually, of course, it's leading to burnout. We were not on that level. We're not really burning out, but we're really realizing that something is not working quite well, because of course the idea of having a business is that you invest like your full day, but you don't have to invest your, let's say, leisure hours or weekends. But with this kind of work, with this kind of schedule, with this kind of services, of course, eventually starting to leak into weekends, into holidays, and that's not good. Also, the margin that we're getting for other consultants that we were kind of reselling their services to other companies was not that big. So it was the hustle of managing the other people, the hustle of managing, the marketing, the negotiations, eventually became too big for us as actually individual contributors, because both of us, we kind of, we like being independent, we like being solo, we like being having freedom, and this kind of business, which involved more people and more moving blocks, didn't really work for us eventually. So we decided to split up. It was actually a very friendly split up. We didn't shout at each other. Actually, it was a very good conversation that we had when we came up with this decision. Of course, it was sad, but at the same time, we realized that we're not moving into anything that would earn millions a month and will give us freedom to do anything we like. So we decided let's not evolve the company anymore. Let's get back into the consulting work, into the contracting work, and to be honest, that was kind of always our backup plan. So if and the reason we started the company together was because we could always go back to the contracting, and eventually it happened. Maybe it was a mistake from our side that we kind of had the plan B and we kind of stick to plan B, but that's life. That's how things happen. And at that point, I already got an experience, working as a solo contractor before, and I had lots of connections, contacts in different parts of Europe, and I also wanted to build something bigger. And yeah, the time of like 2013, I would consider of me going completely fully solo without anyone, but still using the experience I gained before that. So I'm becoming an individual contributor. The funny thing that I did actually, that's still there on my LinkedIn profile. If you look at that, it doesn't say that I'm a developer. It doesn't say that I'm a consultant. It doesn't say that I am some sort of architect or trainer. Actually, it says that I'm CEO, and I'm still CEO of my own company. And one good thing about that is that I'm not being spammed by recruiters, because if you're a developer, or especially if you're like Java developer or senior Java developer, or I don't know some JavaScript developer or DevOps engineer, then most likely you are bombarded by recruiters from different corners of the world. But if you're a CEO, nobody really wants a CEO. Well, I mean, in some cases they do, but it's the demand is not that big as for developers, and that was a nice trick that kind of helped me to stay calm and not to jump into a new gig, into a new contracting opportunity, and to kind of build a framework that allowed me to build something bigger for myself at least. And by that bigger thing, I mean that I started doing many different things, something that I didn't do before. So one of them was actually participating in a couple of startups. Also started speaking more at meetups and conferences. Of course, I did speak before that when some local events and some minor events. But after we wrote the book, and after I kind of became the only person in the company, I decided why not to use that opportunity to see the world, to see Europe, and also to try to maybe find new leads to new revenue streams, to see different people. And I used that, and I actually spoke at many meetups, many conferences. Also, my training experience, and together with Luciano, I definitely started reusing that, and I started to invest more time into providing private and public workshops for different companies on different topics. I was still doing consulting. I'm still pure contracting as before, but it was more like I was trying to make it more short term rather than long term, because quite many contracting gigs, they will come as 6-month contracts or 12-month contracts. But that's something I don't really wanted, because I knew that it's dragging you in, it's dragging your attention, it's removing your focus. So I would actually, offering my customers like a gig, maybe not more than a month, or maybe working for them every second week. And initially I was a bit afraid that they will not agree. I was afraid that they will not kind of be interested in this kind of collaboration. But and some of them were not interested, but some of them actually were, and that's what was my perfect customer base, which trusted me mostly, and which allowed me to work in the way that I prefer, and then with the time frame that I prefer, and they were happy with that as well. So that's maybe another trick that kind of helped me to build up the framework, the business, the solo business that currently works for me very well. Also, I was, of course, participating in the local communities a lot, and I was actually also reading a lot. I actually have quite many books that I bought at that time, and still buying and reading them, which also changed some of the aspects of things that I was doing. Right. So the startups, I mean, they're both a dad at this time, but it still was interesting, to see different people from different professions, like designers, managers, mobile developers, and try to build the product together. And of course, when you're working in a startup, my contribution was mostly, of course, coding and infrastructure, and I was actually working there as a potential CTO of the startup. But of course, the main outcome for me is that I saw how to work in a team that is building a product from scratch. Something that I saw already in my early years, but something that I saw like more and more experience with startups. Also, I actually spoke at so many events, like more than 60 events, and across 20 different countries. Those countries actually are in Europe, except I get a couple of talks in the US, but that was like in 2015. But most of other countries are actually in Europe. So 60 events, more than 80 speeches, and of course it led to new connections, new experiences. Some people actually asking me, does speaking actually helped me getting more clients? No, it didn't. I mean, I got maybe a couple of leads from some of the conferences, and only one of them actually turned into a company buying a training from me. But in general, conferences are not bringing much business. So at least to me, for the level of my speech, for my speeches, it didn't bring anything that would worth investing the time and then money, if I look back. But of course, from the experience level, of course, it was really interesting experience, and allowed me to travel, allowed me to see different people, and make some connections in the speaking community, because there are lots of serial speakers who speak in many different events, and I know them. I actually talk to them, and some of them we are connected on social networks. So it was worth it for experience. Another thing that I did a lot and started doing way more is that I started training, and in the last 8 years I did more than 150 private and public workshops. And the simplest workshop that I did actually was, well, maybe not one day, actually half a day workshops, and the longest one are like 15-day training programs. It was a company in Ireland where they wanted to skill up their DevOps engineers, and we designed together the DevOps Academy program. And well, I was the trainer. I was the main trainer there. So the number of people that were in my courses is more than 2,000. And of course, before the pandemics, I was doing that on site. Now I'm doing that online, mostly. There were a couple of things that happened on site, actually, which was a good experience. But most of them now, for the last 2 years, actually happening online, of course, for obvious reasons. I actually I'm using my main topic, of course, is DevOps, because it's hot and people willing to skill up the things, and also I have a lots of experience in DevOps. It's not just I'm training something that I made up myself. It's something that actually I had experience with, because I had experience with working with many clients, and we organized infrastructure for them. And it's like from small startups to big corporations. We set up full infrastructure and automation and monitoring. I mean, and CI/CD pipelines. So I actually have real experience, and that's what I'm. That's another thing. That's of course you can try to sell trainings in topics that you're not familiar with, but when you are a professional trainer, you can build up or made up the material. But in my case, I'm really building things building training workshops on the things that I actually had experience with a lot. So DevOps, Java is my primary language for a long time. Of course, now I kind of code in several other languages like Python and TypeScript and JavaScript. But Java was I worked a lot with enterprise clients where Java is dominating. So I had lots of projects where I had to tune Java performance, to write Java code, and of course I do have a lot of experience there. Also, my passion is, of course, clean code, clean architecture, TDD, and I can also teach that, and I can also I can tell real stories about where it works, where it doesn't work. So it's it's something that that's kind of bringing dividends now. Right, but of course I still continue to do consulting, and only last year actually I stopped doing consulting. I may still do it for some of my older clients with whom I have good relationship, but for new clients I'm usually trying to decline that, especially if it's something like very simple. Then I would just I would say no. But back in the days, let's say like 5 years ago, 7 years ago, of course, initially I had more long-term engagement, like 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. But then eventually I turned into short-term consulting, because that's something that is really allowing me to organize my time in the way I prefer. And also allowing me to balance the activities and actually do some experiments, do some interesting things, and still earn money. So that's that's a good combination. And of course, training, short-term training, because usually training is short-term. And also I'm doing kind of, helping doing the reviews of company processes, DevOps process, automation process, software delivery process, which also is basically a consulting, but usually you end up that with some sort of report that you share with the company, and then you present that report. But it's short term. So basically the key word here is, of course, is short-term engagements, and just have more of them, and that brings you experience, and that brings you freedom of organizing the time in the way you like, and also brings you money, of course. So speaking of my clients, actually, just it's a short list of them. I had many more, but just the biggest one. I showed them on this slide. So yeah, from Latvia, you probably know many of these companies. I work with AirBaltic, with Citadel, with LMT, with Printify, with Citica, with Accenture, of course, Latvian Accenture. I worked with Latvian Accenture after I left Accenture, so it's not that I worked there as an employee. And also with many companies that there are outside of Latvia. One interesting experience was Lego. Actually, I was going to Billund, where Lego headquarters are, and we had like a four-day training with them, which was very interesting to see how those people work and what kind of problems they have. Nespresso was also interesting. The office is full of coffee machines. So if you want coffee, no problem, it's everywhere. And also we had like a few weeks of consulting with them, which was an interesting experience. Orange, Oracle, or actually with Orange I had many engagements on different countries, actually in Romania and in the UK and in France. Was when you work as a consultant and when you work as a contractor, and at the same time you have a wide network of people from different countries, that brings you more work. And at some point, like when I was working with NetCompany, with like initial my contracting life, of course I was worried that they will not extend the contract, or I'll have to find another company, and that will be painful because they will have different conditions and blah, blah, blah. But eventually I stopped worrying, because, my network is relatively big. And if I need work, if I need gig, if I need job, if I need to sell training, I will find it, well, relatively quickly. And that's the essence of my business now, right? My network of clients, of people, and that's working. Also, I did a few things in the local communities, which also extended my reach, at least in Latvia. So DevClub, Java user group in Latvia, LatCraft. Also, I helped organizing and being organizer of a couple of local conferences like Eternity and Regate of Days, which also bring new connections, new people, new experiences. Something that I would probably not be able to do if I was just an employee, right? Because if I was just working for some company 9 to 5, then I would definitely not be able to do that. But because I managed to organize my business, my work around my network of contacts, my network of clients, and I managed to kind of make it relatively short term and relatively controllable by me. That allows me to invest my time into some other activities which bring me more interesting experience, which is a cool thing. Right. Also, as I mentioned, I read a lot, and that's kind of important part of me. And yeah, that's just one shelf of my big bookcase, which is standing here nearby. So speaking of, I'm summarizing. I'm finishing off. So speaking of, the benefits of being an individual contributor is that, of course, you have freedom. You have the freedom to control your time and organize the things in the way you need that. So vacation, whatever, it's your time. Spending time with family, it's up to you when you do that. You can do it in the morning, you can do it in the evening. So, the freedom is something that is kind of, hard to give away, because I got some offers from some companies to become maybe a team lead or a CTO for them, and I said no, because first of all the money that I make now with my contracting gigs and my training and they would not, the offers would not covering them. So, and giving up my freedom and my income to something that is more controlled and less profitable was not something that I would go for, regardless of of the things that they were trying to sell to me. So I mean, of course, I'm still potentially can take a job. I can still still from being an individual contributor to being some sort of employee of some company, but that should be a really good offer. And so far nobody could match my current income that I make as a solo. Of course, another thing that's kind of important, that I have passion for what I do, because I love training, I love technology, I love talking to people, I love helping companies to solve their problems, and that's my passion. That's what I love to do. It's easier to do that than doing something that somebody wants from you. And also, it allows me to do experiments, to participate in the conferences, organize conferences, participate in local communities, go somewhere, maybe do something that I didn't do before. So I actually did a couple of hackathons for private hackathons for a couple of my clients. I did, this DevOps Academy for 15 days, something that you would never even think of doing, but a bit of luck and a bit of skill actually allowed me to do that, and that's a cool thing. Of course, there are some pains that you have to face as an individual contributor. Of course, nobody can solve procrastination, and that's maybe the biggest challenge for me, at least. Of course, and actually there are two types of procrastination. One is when you have a deadline, and when you have a deadline, especially if it's not your deadline but someone else's deadline, then it's sometimes hard to force yourself into doing that. Or into actually spending time on finishing that. But also there's a type of procrastination that when you don't have a deadline, when you want to do something, but you don't do that because there are some other things, or you're afraid of doing that, and that's harder, and that has more long-term consequences. And that's something that I had to fight myself many times and force myself into be like more disciplined and more investing more time into specific thing and being more focused. Something that I had to to change and to work on. as an individual. I think that if I would stay as an employee, that would be on a different level, be my much higher level of fascination now. Also, naturally, I'm introvert, so I'm shy. I'm actually I'm kind of I'm not afraid talking to people now, but I definitely was way more afraid. And when I'm communicating with people, I'm definitely losing energy because I'm an introvert. And I had to overcome that fear, especially through public speaking and through negotiations with my clients and customers and my trainees, attendees of my courses. That's something that I have to work on to overcome. That's something that happens. Also, I would have to do things that usually you would not do as an employee, right? Accounting, sales, marketing, negotiations. That's something that you would never do as an employee, at least not to that extent that I usually do. But I'm becoming pretty good at that, and that's a good thing. Something you have to overcome anyway. Also, you have to realize that time is limited, and you have to focus. And that's why through short engagements, through short focus trainings, I actually managed to manage my focus a bit better than I was before that. One thing that I still think is a big, huge problem for especially when you work as a contractor with big companies is bureaucracy. Something that I still cannot stand. It's something that I really get angry when I had to go through different bureaucratic procedures that big companies may have. Especially, it's kind of funny because my company is a company of like single man. Of course, I hire people from time to time, but essentially it's one man company. But still, this one man company has to go through the bureaucratic procedure of let's say Orange or Oracle or Lego to be included into the vendor list of those companies. And that you have to fill like gazillion fields in the Excel sheet, and you have to sign 25 pages of contract to deliver like 2-day training, 3-day training, 4-day training. And it's really annoying. But sometimes this pain you have to go through to get to get to interesting places and to get to talk to interesting people. And then you can also tell nice stories to your fellow contractors. My company is a vendor of Lego. Yeah, it's cool, but it means nothing, but it's cool. Right, and basically, the way I'm kind of working now is that my main focus is training, is workshops on different topics. Also, I do short-term consulting, but I'm trying to reduce that to a minimum, and only doing that for like my old customers at the moment. And also from time to time I'm doing this audits or like code reviews or company reviews, process reviews for companies where I'm providing a report in the end. Something that I'm still I can still do. And then also from time to time I'm also doing pure short-term automation projects. Again, at this point I'm doing that only for my like older customers. And this kind of this three attributes, for 3 elements, they kind of allow me to continue growing my network, to building my personal brand, and still allow me to have a good revenue through the years. And basically, the point 3, the pure automation project, give me the material for my trainings, especially for the ones related to DevOps. And you know that automation tooling is changing a lot, especially new cloud providers, new services, and I need to know them like from the first hand. So this small automation project or big automation project, depending how you look at that, help me to gain new material, new experience, real life experience. So the 3 is reinforcing the 1. Also, kind of my audience, my trainees, my attendees of my courses, the size of the audience is growing over years. So now it's more than 2,000 people, and it also can lead to some automation projects with the customers with the companies from where these people are coming, and also the ability to do this kind of reports and short-term consulting. It also gives me connections, usually with leadership roles. That also drives my sales in consulting and my sales in training, which I think works pretty well, at least at this point. And of course, the most important, way people learn about me or learn about my services, or learn about things that I do is word of mouth. I mean, I'm not doing any Facebook ads or Google ads, or not. I tried actually a couple of times, but it didn't work that well. But the main source of information about me and how customers find me is word of mouth. People talk about me, and they tell that this guy is a good guy, and you can probably get a training from him. You can probably get a consulting from him. He knows his stuff. And it's kind of is helping me. My personal brand is something that's real, right? And maybe it's not as for some social media personalities where you have like huge followings and anything. My following is not that big on social media, but my personal brand is something that exists and something that works. And there are some principles that I'm following when I'm trying to build my personal brand and to preserve my source of income through my network, is that I'm always honest. I'm trying to be honest with my customers and telling them the truth. I'm being open about whether I'm busy or what's the problem, and I'm not hiding that. I'm the one who will not play the political games, because I don't have to. I'm external force. Also, I'm trying to be kind, and I'm trying to be helpful. So that's if I see that there's no ground for us for long collaboration or training between the customer, I'm still trying to send them some links or give them some hints of what they can do. Maybe direct them to some other person who may be doing the job maybe cheaper, maybe in a different way. And I'm still trying to be helpful and kind with my customer, because it works in the long term. Right. And the final statement, probably working as an individual consultant or individual contributor may be hard at times, but after almost 16 years of being kind of solo or trying different things, I'm still doing that. I'm kind of enjoying that as well. Right. And the few things I'm kind of planning to work on, and actually for some of them I'm already working on, is I'm going to make a video course on DevOps. So of course selling my trainings is nice and cool, but I want to do that more like passively, interactively, and maybe do some more content, digital content for programmers, and maybe do some software as a service experiments, because that's a nice source of income. I'm still a developer after all. Right. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. Edgar, you're on mute. No, we don't hear you. At least I don't hear you. Okay, yeah, you have to go out, restart the computer, and get in. Right. Thank you, Albert. Nice to see you. So if you guys have any questions, I guess you can write them in the comments somewhere. Just not sure where exactly. I see a comment from Albert, yeah, but nothing else yet. Okay, I guess we're waiting for Edgar to get back. He's restarting his computer, has some weird problem with audio, which turns off, and then the only way to turn it on is to restart the computer. I guess he's using Windows. Well, I'm also using Windows, so it's I don't have to bash Windows that much, but sometimes, Windows may be a problem. Yanis is asking best and worst consulting experience. Well, initially, especially when I started to work for more than one company, had more than one contract at the same time, and then at some point we had 3 contracts. Then at some point you have 0 contracts, and it was really worrying for me, psychologically, to lose that ground. That it seemed like what's next, what to do, and you were getting really nervous, and especially because you were still working, trying to find new contracts, trying to find new clients, and you were getting no's from them, or you were getting silence from them. So I think that's probably the worst moment in consulting, in contractor's life, when you have no contract, right? And that's something that led me into forcing myself to accept the silence, to accept the no, and with a better psychological approach. So I became more calm when somebody doesn't want me, or somebody that doesn't reply, or somebody says no. I managed to accept that, and after that things became easier. And after that things became easier. But still, of course, if you're talking about the worst experiences, also bureaucracy sometimes is something that kills me, really. One funny thing was, which never happened to me before, was that one of the companies, they wanted a training, like a 4-day training, and I mean, we agreed on the training with those who wanted the training. So the sale already was done, but then we went into official part where we had to sign the contract with the legal department, and there was a special hard requirement from that company that you have to insure your work. You, as a company, or like me, have to insure my work again. At the time when I was doing that work inside the premises of that company, which was ridiculous, because it was like a 4-day training. I was just doing the training. I was not doing anything else. We just were sitting in the room. And what kind of damage can I do? Why do I have to buy insurance? And I tried to argue with them, but there was really just a hard requirement they cannot lift. And I had to buy an insurance, but before I managed to buy that, I had to find a company that will sell me insurance, because there was no one in Riga. Nobody was offering this kind of services, the kind of type of insurance. I was explaining the situation to them, and they were like, "What's that? We don't offer that. Do you want maybe to buy Casco? No, I want to insure my training." And then, no, we don't do that. But then eventually I found one company, one person who sold me an insurance for 4 days, and it was okay for that company for which I was just doing the training. But that was like, I spent in total maybe a week of time together with my wife, trying to find the solution to the problem that was not really a problem. And that was, that's something that still makes me angry sometimes, when we have to go through bureaucratic procedures. Right. So Victor is asking, any tips on work-life balance when flying solo? How not to become a workaholic? Yeah, it's a problem. It's really a problem. I'm trying to control myself, actually, because sometimes I am working more than I should, and sometimes actually I'm not noticing that I'm actually working more than I should. And well, the good thing is that my wife is really controlling that. She's really, she's dragging me out of that, and we're having time together and I'm trying to spend more time with my kids, and I'm also, I'm having really good wife. She's really good in that. But and the reason I'm kind of sometimes I'm a workaholic, because I actually like what I'm doing, and I'm too passionate jumping into what I do, and I can forget about the time. So yeah, so maybe a tip here is like, find a good wife if you're a man, or a good spouse if you're
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so let's wait for 1-2 minutes more for questions, if there are some, and if not, then we switch to panel discussion. Yeah, my main point was that if you are software developer, then in general, there is no risk to try out any adventure nowadays.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
you are like 99% sure that you're gonna get other incomes quite easily. Okay, some
That's definitely true.
Antons is asking. Antons is asking here. What's the annual income in solo entrepreneur mode? Make us jealous.
I'm not sure I want to share that on record. But it's okay. It's enough. One thing I can tell you, once I got an offer from Amazon, from AWS. They wanted me to relocate to Munich and to become like a software architect, traveling software architect, and they offered me less money than I earn now. I don't know if it gives you some. Yeah, well, Anton is asking. It's not official. It is official. It is official. Maybe if you want to pay some money to Luresoft, you can actually figure out that from official sources. The Amazon offered me like 180,000 euros per year before taxes.
So
I hope it
you told enough to make people jealous.